posted a short of my nails, just updating you guys on what I got. And I do have up close detail shots of all my previous sets of nails. So if you guys really like that short, then I will upload more of those. But for tonight, we are going to be reading from this book. This book is called The Indigenous Black People of Monroe, Louisiana, and the surrounding cities, towns, and villages, a 100-year documentary. I bought this book at my local used bookstore for $5, and I picked it up because I was just so curious I had to have it. It sounds really interesting just because obviously that is a community of people that is not super well documented. So I'm extremely curious to see what this researcher has documented. But also I thought it would be fun to read this nice long documentary book because then it's something that I can get multiple parts out of. So this is just going to be part one. This is just going to be part one. Obviously, I'm not going to read this whole thing in one go. But I also found this book particularly interesting from the other books because it is signed by the author. It is signed by the author. The inscription from the author says, "Dear Cousin Sandra, thanks for your interest in reading this documentary. I hope you enjoy it as much as I took pleasure in researching it. Love, James O. McHenry." So, obviously, I am not his cousin Sandra, so I don't know how this book ended up at my local used bookstore, but I can tell you that the inscription is from February 1st, 2011. So I am going to say that Cousin Sandra probably read this book a long time ago and was probably finished with it by the year of our Lord 2026. So let's just get started. Contents: Part 1, 1900 to 1910. Part 2, 1911 to 1920. Part 3, 1921 to 1930. I must have skipped part 4. But part 5 is 1941 to 1950. Part 6 is 1951 to 1960. Part 7 is 1961 to 1970. Part 8 is 1971 to 1980. Part 9 is 1981 to 1990. And Part 10 is 1991 to 2000. So that is why it is so long. Because there's a lot of parts. It goes on over 100 years. Remember, 100-year documentary. So, I don't know about you guys, but I personally am not much of a prologue reader. Sorry, I'm not much of a prologue reader. I usually just like to go to chapter 1 of the story. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm afraid that's what I'm gonna do. Okay. Part 1. Part 1, 1900 to 1910. 1900 to 1910. And this very first page is about Delia Pleasant Berry, June 15th, 1908. Extension, Franklin Parish, Louisiana. Place of residence, Monroe, Louisiana. several names: Ma Dear, D, Grandmother, Miss Delia, Sister Barry, and Mother Barry. I was born on June 15th, 1908 in Extension, Louisiana, near Winnsboro, to my proud parents Ella Anderson Pleasant, born about 1889, from New Orleans, Louisiana, and Walker Pleasant, born about 1859, and died about January 5th, 1919, from Fort Necessity, Franklin Parish, Louisiana. I think my mother was part Creole and kind of dark in color, and my father looked part Indian too. He was light brown skinned and about my color. My grandfather on my daddy's side was Dorsey Pleasant. He was from Kentucky, born in 1828, and he was called a mulatto, or half white. His wife, my grandmother, was named Emily Johnson Pleasant, and she was born in 1833 in Virginia. I don't know how they got to Louisiana. Maybe they were slaves. They were married on July 14th, 1866 in Concordia, Louisiana. On my mother's side, the Andersons. My grandfather was Dan Anderson. He was born in about February 1837 in Mississippi. He was about 20 years older than my grandmother. Before I was born, they lived outside St. Joseph, Louisiana, on the Panola Plantation in Manassas Parish, Louisiana, with their 4 children. My grandmother, his wife, was named Ellen. She was born on approximately April 1858 in Mississippi. My husband was Reuben Berry, and he was born in Louisiana, June 10th, 1887. He had been married before, and he was about 20 years older than me. I don't really know where he was from, and we were not together when he died. I heard that he died in Greenville, Mississippi in 1968. I remember him as being kind of a mean and angry person. I don't know what made him that way. I had one child named Dorothy Berry. She was born October 21st, 1927, and died April 23rd, 2003, in Monroe, Louisiana. Had 4 children, 3 daughters, and 1 son. My grandson, Bobby. My grandson, Bobby, died in 1999. My granddaughters are Ruby Nell Berry, Mary Delarose Berry, and Gloria Lee Berry. I have 12 great-grandchildren and had 15 great-great-grandchildren. My half-brothers were John Harris, Lucas Harris, Dunk Phoenix, and Golden Pheasant. They are all deceased. I had 3 sisters, Missy Pheasant, Sadie Pheasant, and Della Harris Mathis. They are also deceased. I had an older sister-in-law named Grace Heckard Pleasant. As I remember, our parents were loving parents. I heard Mama say one time that when she'd got to fussin' and huffin' with her father, he'd get his hat and go away down in the field until she cooled down. He was a nice and quiet man. I don't remember a lot of information, but there's a lady in Winnsboro named Henrietta Holmes who knows all of that. My memory isn't too good anymore. Since I had this last sickness, I can't seem to get my words out good, but I remember my brothers and I wouldn't play together when necessary. My brother Golden and I would play together with an old wagon wheel. He'd get it rolling down the road and control it with a stick and a piece of iron, and he'd hit it with the piece of iron to make noise. My older brother was quiet, but we got along nice together. That's all I remember. The area I grew up in was all right. We were in the country, on the farm. We had to cut cotton stalks and weeds and things out of the field. It was pretty hard, but we had to do it. I started working pretty early at about 14 years old. We were sharecropping, and I guess it was pretty good since we didn't have much choice. Things were pretty cheap and we had plenty to eat, so as children we just enjoyed it. We didn't know anything else. We picked the cotton, and the white landowner would get his part or whatever. It was pretty good enjoyment. This is not part of the book, but that's just so sad. That's just so sad that they didn't know any better at that time, you know? That's just so sad. I wish this woman could have known a better life, you know? Nobody, deserves that. That's so tough. And I mean tough in the way that, that was actually hard to go through. Not tough in the way that, people use it now as, a meme. I definitely don't mean to make light of that situation. That sounds extremely hard to go through, obviously. My life as a little girl. I could ride a horse too. I would ride without a saddle, but I would ride the real gentle horses. I didn't pick the wild horses. I would ride the horses all around, but I didn't ride nowhere far. Yes, I did learn canning when I was a girl. I used to put up blackberries and plum jelly. We didn't collect rainwater or use a well for water. We had a pump when I was a girl, and we heated up our water for bathing on the wood-burning stove. We also cooked on that stove. The boys hunted for food, but I don't remember my daddy going hunting. We raised our own hogs, cows, and some horses. We also had a big garden. We had tall collard greens about this high, pickle, cabbage, onions, radish, iced potatoes, and sweet potatoes too. I didn't have favorite foods then. I could eat most anything, but I especially liked pork chops. I remember that I was in Winnsboro once back then, and I ate a banana. It didn't agree with me, so I quit eating them. I never got into trouble from when I was a little girl until now. One girl when I was growing up was really mean toward me. After school was out, she used to love to jump on me. We used to have our biscuit with syrup poured over it in a bucket with a little meat down in there with it. At school, when dinner time came, we used to eat together. It was so good. We used to make syrup too at our place. Then when school was out, all the children would be yelling at me, and this girl would go to fighting. She had a bucket too, and she hit me right above my eye. The teacher would say, "If you all don't quit fighting," and then I'd say, "Well, she jumped on me, couldn't do nothing with her. She was bigger than me, and I think she was just older too." I why she didn't like me, but she was just mean. Her name won't come to me now because it was too many years ago. The school didn't have a name, but it was in Fort Necessity, so I guess it was just called the Fort Necessity School. It was just one big room for all the children. It had a pump for water. We had to stop school to work in the field when it was time to work it. We had to clean up the fields from the other year so they could get it ready to plant new crops. Country medicines. When we got sick, especially with a cold, there was no doctor. Folks would get the buggy and take you to Fort Necessity or between there or something like that. Sometimes they would cook peach leaves or chicken feet soup, and you would drink it. They used boiled merlin leaves for tea from a little bush or something, like mustard greens. It was used for fever. When I was sick as a little girl, they used to go to the store and buy black trout and then mix it with warm water, and you'd drink it like tea. It was a laxative. Then they had something called quinine. It was for malaria and also used for leg muscle cramps. I remember that after my teeth came back when I was a little girl, they got bad from eating a lot of sweet stuff like sugar cane. Sometimes when I'd drink cold water, it would hurt my gums so bad. I had to go again and again to have them pulled. We used to have an old record player called a gramophone. I was never no dancer, but I tried. I couldn't sing either. I forgot the man's name, but he used to sing the song called Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. I used to love that song, but I never could get the notes right. I love to hear somebody else say it. One of my teachers was Miss Largesways. Mr. Largesways. He taught music. I attended extension school to 7th grade in between working in the fields during planting and harvest seasons, hoeing and picking cotton. The days were long, hot, and tiring. Working in white folks' homes. I worked on the farm when I lived in Franklin Parish before moving to Monroe. When I came here, my husband went to some other place. The first place I worked when I came here was at St. Francis Nursing Home. I worked there for 2 to 3 months. After that, I worked at Hunt's Cafe downtown. It was located across from the old Central Bank downtown. I also worked at Hemp's Cafe near the river. I used to take in ironing also, and I would iron large baskets of clothing. For ironing, I was paid $3 per basket. I also worked at what I called the lazy job at Northeast Louisiana University. I had to clean all the books in the library. When I got tired, I could rest when I wanted to. I think that was getting paid over $100 a month. I can't say that I suffered from racial abuse when I was a little girl coming up, simply because I was a black person, but the white people didn't want you mixing with them. I used to work in private homes, and there was this one white woman in particular who was kind of prejudiced. She made me get down on my knees with soap rags and a brush to scrub the floors. I did that a heap of times because I worked there for a long time. I I said, "I don't like to get on my knees and mop this kitchen up. I can clean it just as good with a mop, rather than get down on my knees and scrub this floor. I don't scrub my own floors like this." I was about 25 or 30 years old then, working in private homes. I earned $15 a week. I also worked as a hairdresser and pressed hair for 75 cents a head. Much later, my price went to $2 a head. A lot of my customers were credit customers, and they'd say, "I'll pay you next week, Miss Delia." The Great Flood and the Great Depression. I remember the Great Depression that started in October 1929. I was 21 years old. Since life was already tough, I don't remember suffering from it much. I also remember the Great Flood of 1927. We had heard that the Mississippi River flooded first. We were living back up in the hills between Wisner and Cicely Island, Louisiana. I was about 20 years old when that happened. Somebody came and picked us up in boats. The water was pretty deep and some people were wading out. It was too far to the Bow River bank to wade, but we were lucky and didn't have to wade. Water got into many folks' houses. But when we got back, we saw that it didn't get into ours. We saw plenty of snakes at that time. We did a lot of fishing in the river before the flood. While we were gone from home during the flooding, snakes got into people's houses also. Moving to Monroe. I can't quite remember the year that I moved to Monroe. I'll tell you how to figure it out if you can remember this man, or if you know who he is. You'll know how many years I've been here. You hear tell of Hi-Hat Sam Jones. That's what they called him. He was some kind of governor. Note, Sam Hi-Hat Houston Jones is the man who defeated Earl Kemp Long in the primary runoff for the Louisiana governorship. Sam Houston Jones became Louisiana governor in 1940 and served until 1944. I moved here to Monroe the same year that Hi-Hat Jones won. Anyway, as I remember it, Governor Hi-Hat Sam Jones did all right. He gave food stamps in Louisiana because he said that there was too much poverty in the state. Black and white people were very poor. He also gave out stamps for shoes and clothes. I was never a slave because it was over when I came along. I did hear about it. My mother's people came from Africa. I never heard her say where in Africa they came from. She was a little darker than me in color and was kind of strongly built. She was a pretty good size and kind of dark-skinned, but not real dark-skinned. She was kind of dark. Mama came here with her sister and her uncle, whose name was Hills Williams. They happened to get away from wherever they were. Their son, King, age 7, was also at the residence. Okay, I think I'm just gonna try to finish this section on this lady really quick, because this is the last page. Slavery and beatings. There were stories about slavery and beatings too. There was one white man's place, the Daly place, owned by John Daly. I remember him whipping a couple of black men. They would tie them to the fence and beat them with a whip. I don't remember why, but it was for the least little thing. Either something they did to each other or something the white men didn't like. They were just slaves because they couldn't resist. just like slaves because they couldn't resist. It never happened to me because we were on a good white man's place. His name was Spencer Deshay. He was just good to his workers. He owned a store but didn't run it for too long. He would let us have anything he grew. This happened in Extension, Louisiana, in Franklin Parish. My father was a slave too. I never heard him talk about it because he died before I got old enough to pay attention. He died in the 60s from pneumonia or something like that. He never got to a doctor. He took some stuff, some old-timey medicine that people used when they got sick. I never witnessed a hanging, but I heard tell of it. I never actually saw anybody who was left hanging. I never heard that they hung any woman. I didn't know any people that I heard of were hanged. Getting baptized. As a child, I joined Locust Hill Baptist Church in Extension and was baptized in 1924 in the Bow River by Reverend H.Y. Finster. I moved to Monroe. My family and I united with Solomon Temple Baptist Church. Reverend J.B. Brown was the pastor, and I was a member of the choir. I loved and still love to sing. Later we united with Rose of Sharon Baptist Church with Reverend J.B. Brown as the pastor. I was crowned a mother of the church, and I was a member of the mission. I'm still a member of Rose of Sharon Baptist Church. It is currently under the leadership of my wonderful pastor, Dr. A.B. Davis Johnson, Sr. What does God mean to me? You ask, what does God mean to me? He means everything. He's good to me. God is good when I pray to him every day. I was in a bad car wreck in 1984. We were on our way back to Winsboro, and my cousin was driving. My knee was broken, and they had to wire it up. I was treated at St. Francis Hospital. I never saw it coming, and I was unconscious, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know if I was inside the car, on the ground, under the car, or what. I don't know how many days it was before I came to myself or knew who I was. My cousin's wife died right there on the spot. And the way the accident happened, all of us could have died. That right there, near Ditchell Road. Yes, God means everything. Interview with Delia Pleasantberry, 2008. And then after that we get a picture. And the picture says people living in boxcars after 1932 flood, circa 1932. So if you enjoyed part 1, don't forget to like and subscribe and come back for part 2. Let me know if you want a part 2. Let me know if this was interesting. I think it was quite interesting in my opinion. I'm going to put a bookmark in where we are so that we can come right back to where we are next time. And I hope you have a great rest of your night.